What is up, woke family? It's your boy Wokey Bucks, and I'm back again with another live stream video. Guys, we have a lot of good videos we're going to be getting into today. For what I'm saying, we're going to wrap up from yesterday. We're going to start off with Tyler Perry's thoughts on Kanye West featuring Bradley Martin, right? Well, not featuring Tyler Perry on Bradley Martin's podcast. You feel what I'm saying? Raw Talk, I think. So we're going to get into this video. I'm going to give you all my thoughts, and we're going to move on. Let's get into it, man.
Oh yeah, we got test kits?
Hell yeah.
Let's go.
I gotta check all you. I don't know where the hell y'all been.
Yeah, no.
So open that.
Okay, I'm not gonna lie. I've done a lot of podcasts, but
Step back there.
this one I'm kind of like actually nervous for, you know?
Why are you nervous about it?
I mean, bro,
You pass this test, we'll be all right.
You're doing great.
how often do you actually get to chill out?
You don't have to build those in. I have to build brakes in. A lot of people don't do that, but I build my brakes.
Wait, so Tyler Perry made them take a COVID test? Bro, come on, bro. You're a billionaire for crying out loud. Almost near a billionaire, $800 million. You shouldn't be scared of COVID, bro. Come on, man.
Makes sense. So, I worked really, really hard for a few months and then build it in.
Right?
Like, it was like, what kind of content do you watch? I was never really a big content consumer. I just made it.
Break all the rules, and that's what works. That's what I tell people. If you're creative, be creative. Don't you don't have to follow. What do you feel? People may think it's shit, but there's an audience who may love what you do.
Well, then in that case, like if you're going to school and you're doing some sort of like creative major and you're being art, then what's the purpose of that then?
Well, there's some people who want and need and understand and want to have the logistics behind it. I was always opposite of that. I didn't want people telling me how a story should be written. I didn't want people telling me that this many pages should be here. I didn't want to learn that. I wanted to just tell it how I felt it. All right, I'm gonna take a chance on you, man. We're gonna come back and check that. Let's go.
I honestly, I wanted to, first and foremost, I want to get into this podcast by saying thank you so much for showing up because I know how valuable your time is. And
Yeah.
I think right away getting into this, a lot of people who clicked are going to be probably like, what the hell is going on? Like, why did this happen?
Yeah, I'm kind of curious.
And I kind of want to get into a little bit of the story of kind of like how this came to fruition today. And then obviously talk a lot more about you and in detail. I've known you for almost about 12 years now.
Yeah.
And before I had anything that I have today, before anyone knew who I was, even the amount of people who do, like no one, I guess before you have stuff and before you create any sort of name for yourself at any scale, people don't typically believe in you.
Yeah.
You were a person that you came into.
Facts. People aren't going to believe until people listen. Woke family, this is one thing I'm going to tell you right now. People are not going to believe in you until you show them what you're made of. Let me say that one more time. People are not going to believe in you until you show them what you're made of. When you show people what you're made of, they have no choice but to what? Believe. Let them doubt you because they don't know who you are. They don't know who God has called you to be. They don't know the energy that resides within your body, within your soul. That's exactly why I encourage all my woke ones every day from the minute you wake up to the minute you go to sleep, you got to grind. You got to go get it. You feel me? You got to go get it. If you don't go get it, somebody else is going to go after it. Let's go.
Into my life at a time, and this was prior to social media, any kind of blow up, and I was a trainer. I had met you at a gym. I had trained you for a little bit. This was towards like the end of my career as a trainer. And I remember I asked you something really significant because you became a friend to me.
Yeah.
And I remember I asked you, why me? Why did I get this this gift in a sense of having like a friend and a person who's like absolutely carved a path in an industry where prior to carving that path, the path did not exist. And you've done so much for the culture, the community. Like you've made a way that, like I said, just didn't exist. And me knowing about your story and where you came from, when you allowed me in your life as a friend, and you kind of were, I mean, straight up, I'll tell you, and I know, and I've told you this before, but you were a mentor to me, a person that in my life, growing up without a father, I was so grateful to have in my life. That was like someone who was accomplishing things at the highest level possible. And just before we get into more of these questions about you, you showed me kind of like what was possible for me. You showed me that, like, even just seeing your success through all of the hardships and from like literally nothing, because you've gone through it all in a sense. I mean, you've dealt with abuse, you've dealt with having nothing to creating everything, and not just for yourself, but for so many people. And like I said prior, creating like a lane that was never there for an entire community. I just want to say thank you for being such a good friend, and for changing so many people's lives, including mine. So before we get into this, I just first and foremost, I really wanted to say that. And I'm grateful to have you here, man. I think you've done amazing things.
I'm glad to be here, Brad. Thank you. I tell you, the why me, I get that question a lot.
Yeah.
From a lot of people, from actors, actresses, from people who come into my life, work for me, why me? And I always think, why not you? You know, why not you? Why not you having an opportunity to do something different? Why not you have?
And just not to even cut off Tyler Perry. This is what you have to understand. You see, people like himself, they're very rare. A lot of people just have for myself mentality instead of trying to help the community as a whole. Whether it's the black community, white community, Asian, Hispanic, whatever, right? A lot of people in this world have a go get it for myself mentality. And they don't want to help out their brothers. They don't want to help out their sisters. This man, if what he's saying is true, I don't know the situation, that just goes to show you he's a rarity and he needs to be respected. It's not a lot of people are like that. Whole family. But let's continue.
Having tremendous success. I've got this girl that works for me right now. Her name is Crystal Hazelett, who was my stylist for years. She wanted to act. She never told me she was an actress. She never told me she had auditioned. And she thought, I hated her work because she had auditioned, but I never saw it. So I was doing a show called Sisters, and one day I said, she said, can I audition? I was like, sure, but if I give you the shot, you got to kill it. There's nothing you can do but kill it. And she killed it, man. And she got that why me thing, because so many great things are happening for her right now. Like, she's got another show on the air. She's making a ton of money. She's happier than she's ever been in her life. But I wish more of us would embrace the fact of, when people, instead of the question of why me, then ask why not me.
Yeah.
But I know where you were at the time, because I've been there myself, where you're just starting out, you're struggling, you're unsure of what your future looks like. And by the way, let me just say how proud I am of you, looking at everything that you've done. Because I was just telling your team that a lot of people have asked me to invest in gyms. You never asked me to invest in anything. Never asked me for a dime. Never asked me for anything. And you've been able to do this, manage it, grow it. Through all the growing pains of it all, you've managed to do it all on your own, figuring it out and learning as you've gone, calling me a lot of conversations to walk through the business side of it. But I'm really, really proud of the steps you've made, how you've made them, and how you've managed to grow this into what it is.
Yeah.
That needs to be applauded. And I don't know if anybody tells you that, but it should be, for sure.
I appreciate it. And I want to say this, kind of talk it back like to you, and before we get into more of this, it's because I remember moments where I saw your success and I saw how you did it, and you created a lane, like I said, that didn't exist. And I remember thinking like, oh, if he can do it, then I can do it, because knowing what you had been through and what you had gone through.
That's what my life is about, man.
Yeah. And I also want to stay, like, it seems as though a lot of your, if not all of your content, movies, productions, everything that you're involved in, that is created from you, is it has meaning. Like, it has life to it. It doesn't seem like it's a superficial, like it's just to get clicks or get views or make sales. Like, it seems like even like everything that you've done, like the plays, at the end of the plays where you have the talks, and it's like there's a meaning to almost everything. And
I think for Tyler Perry, the meaning that it has, Brad, is everything that he's either faced in his life or that goes on in the black community. And he tries to paint that picture and show people what it's about, so that they can be able to relate to the situation, right? Because no matter which race you are, you to an extent can relate to somebody or multiple people in this country when it comes to what you've experienced. You understand? So that's what it is.
It all comes from like a deeper place than just like, I'm trying to write this script so that I can make some money. And
yeah, and with that, let's just jump back a little bit to the understanding of the opportunity to do this and having people see it, how important that is to see it. Because I didn't have anybody in my life that I saw growing up that was black and doing well. I didn't see a black man doing well except the pimps and the preacher. You know, those were the only one that were doing well in my neighborhood. Oprah was on the air and I would see her do well. But it's so important for people to see it, to know that you can make it. And in my life, I tell people this all the time: God doesn't waste my time. Like if
Amen to that. One thing we have to all understand, woke families, is that whatever you're going through in your life, whether you're going through depression, whether you're going through sadness, even though I believe that depression is just a state of mind, it's not an actual disease. The thing you have to understand is that, excuse me, a strong body forms a strong mind. If you're consistently working out, it's going to be able to help reflect your mindset in a positive way. And then from there, if you read books and if you're putting in actions every single day, no matter whether it goes up or goes down, you will achieve success. Success is attainable to those who are willing to put in the work. Success is attainable to those who are willing to do more than what the average man isn't willing to do. You understand? If you're willing to put in more work, you will become successful as long as you don't quit. People tend to quit. It's like, bro, you cannot afford to quit. Quitting is not going to land you where you want it to land you. You cannot afford to quit. Quitting is not an option at all. We on this channel, as woke members of the Most High, we are winners. And we will see it through. You understand? We're winners. Straight up. Let's get it back. Let's get back into this, man.
If you're able to get to me and we become friends and and you're in my life, it's for a reason. It's for you to see something that is to help you on your journey, your path. Because I'll never forget working with people who were tremendously successful when I had nothing. And I'd always get frustrated, like, why am I doing this? I got so much inside of me. Then I learned to sit back and watch and pay attention, because being in their presence, I was learning so much of stuff that I use now. So if you're ever fortunate enough to, and I'll say this to anybody listening, if you're ever fortunate enough to get in the presence of people who are successful, it's not about a moment of like, oh, let me show you what I can do, as much as it is like, there's something for me to learn from this person for my future. Like people show up in your lives, in our lives, to help cultivate us for whatever's next for us. Like I'm doing way better than any of those people ever thought they could. And I thought, man, they're at the pinnacle. But every lesson they taught me, I was able to use. So it's so important, man.
Why do you think it's hard for people to allow themselves to go through the hardships? It's like people kind of look for an easy way. Because when I ask this question, because
it's because of the dopamine, Brad. You have to understand that society has sensitized people so much to believing that if they don't get a dopamine release off of social media, especially, it's going to be impossible for them to be able to be happy or impossible for them to be able to be successful. The people that are the most successful in this life are not attached to dopamine as much as the person that's successful. So if you want to become more successful, you have to detach from social media as much as possible, right? Unless you're using it for your business or something like that, or using it as a way to make money. It's one thing, but it's like, if not, detach from it, bro. Let's continue.
Because I know specifically, and I'm wondering what made me this kind of person, that I saw your success and I was like, oh, because where he came from, and I'm thinking about because where I came from in my childhood, I want to be able to almost prove to myself or prove to my mom or prove to my family or prove to you even at some point, because you kind of became a mentor figure in my life, somewhat of a father figure. I wanted to prove that like I could do something great by my own accord. And I, you know, you said earlier that I didn't ask you for anything, like I could never take a handout. I always felt like I couldn't. I remember when, even at the moment when I was doing all the social media stuff, and prior to even meeting you, I had lived in my car for like, I think like 4 months. And I remember I could have went home. It's not like I didn't have a home to go to. I was like, but I always had this innate. All right, boys, this episode is sponsored by
Brad, why you do that, man? Come on, man.
BetterHelp. Listen, it's never a bad time, ever a bad time to get some help, okay? Genuinely speaking, I am someone who has been currently going to therapy. It's convenient for me because it's like, you know, pretty close to my house. I like my therapist. But personally, I've been dealing with a lot of stuff that I'm like, man, I'm getting to a point in my life where I kind of keep getting into not necessarily the same exact issues, but like my reaction to a lot of similar problems in my life seems to kind of repeat itself. I'm like, okay, I want to break this chain, right? So I've been going to therapy. Now, you guys with BetterHelp, you guys can do this in the convenience of your home. You don't have to travel anywhere. You don't have to drive anywhere. You know, no traffic. You can literally just log in to help you get a therapist that's right for you. It's all online. It's all web-based. It's super simple, super easy. I encourage anyone, if you feel like you actually need help it does help to have someone that you talk to, whether it is web-based or in person, that you're not, you don't want to just always talk to your boy or like a friend or like a family member, because a lot of those people sometimes will have biases based on like how much they know you or what they know about you, or maybe a friend who thinks like they're going to get something from you out of being nice to you, or there's so many things that can kind of, that's part of my own therapy that I need to deal with, but like there's a lot of stuff that can come into like seeking help in certain situations where like if you have a therapist, for example, for BetterHelp, you can get someone.
I'm gonna have to push back on what you just said. Now, granted, I mean, I'm not here to knock you if that's what you feel like is best, but I don't believe people need therapy, right? Now, some people might say, "Oh yeah, you're wild for saying that." No, old family. This is one thing we have to understand. There is not a single person in this world who's not going through their own cross, right? They're not going through their own struggle. They're not carrying their own cross. They're not going through their own that they're not going through their own struggle. Every single one of us is carrying a cross. Every single one of us is fighting our own battles. Every single one of us is going through our own struggle, right? So, in my opinion, I don't believe it'd be best for us to go to therapy, but instead, we have to figure out what the root of our problem is and start to problem solve opportunities, right? Solve problem-based opportunities in order to be able to level up, in order to be able to get past that spiritual battle, that spiritual war against the devil, right? That physical battle, that physical war against the devil that is causing all those negative things to continuously manifest into your life. Because what people don't understand is everything that happens in your life physically manifested spiritually first, right? Or it manifested through the spiritual realm. Therefore, you have to fight that spiritual battle every single day. You have to fight that physical battle every single day against the devil. The best way to be able to combat that is prayer, right? And actions. What do? You pray, you work out, you read books. That's all the therapy you need. That is all the therapy you need. And then from there, after you do those things, you continuously work towards solving your problems. If you know that write down a list of solutions that you believe are going to help you and see how they affect you long term. You don't need to go to therapy. You do not need to go to therapy at all. Therapy is unnecessary, in my opinion. You understand, woke family? I'm going to be honest with you guys. I'm not going to lie. We don't lie over here. We don't cap over here, right? Because that same person you're telling your problems to is also going through their own battles. Who do they have to talk to? Who do they have to talk to? You would think another person, but that's not always the case. You know? Therefore, you have to be able to solve your problems and get through it as a man. Because we know as men especially, no one is here to save us. If we don't save ourselves and if God doesn't save us, we're done. But God can save you spiritually. You can save yourself spiritually as well too, but you got to put in the work physically. You don't put in that work, you're done for. Simple. Let's continue.
One that's going to be, non-biased to your situation. So check out BetterHelp. Go to betterhelp.com/raw talk to get 10% off your first consultation. Again, guys, that's betterhelp.com/raw talk to get 10% off. betterhelp.com/raw talk to get 10% off. Let's get back to this podcast. Feeling that if I quit or if I gave up, that I was just a failure. And I'm sure it ties back to my childhood in probably greater detail. But why do you what do you think separates people who decide almost can create that it's all not necessarily all or nothing, but I'm gonna do this no matter what? What do you think that makes that person different than the person who goes, maybe I'll take this route because it's easier, or maybe I'll forget that because it's so hard now, and then they kind of they go the way that they don't necessarily want to go to try to, circumvent what they actually want to do, and then they end up never kind of doing it. So what do you what do you think defines a person or allows a person to go no, this is the thing I'm going to do? Because you clearly did this in your life as well, where you're this is what I'm going to do with my life, no matter, even if it existed or not, I'm going to create it.
Yeah. Adversity. How much adversity, how much pain have you come through, have you dealt with? I think that is a key, not the only thing, but that is a key to driving people to major success and pushing through.
But adversity to some people destroys them.
Well, that's exactly what I mean. Here's what I want you to understand. There are people who have gone through
This is my thing, Brad. I'm gonna be honest with you. If people go through adversity if people go through adversity and it destroys them, that means they were never meant to make it in the first place. Let me repeat that again. If people go through adversity and they don't make it past, right? it was never meant for them in the first place. Ever since the beginning of time, what have we gone through? Survival of the fittest. And I hate to tie survival of the fittest into religion because I believe that religion is better than evolution. But the point is that ever since the beginning of time, only the strongest have survived and have recreated and reproduced and had children onto the next generation. If you know that you're not meant to deal with all of the stresses of this world, then I don't know what to tell you. But all I know is that every single human being that God created you for a purpose. God created you to be able to withstand all of the evil that goes on in the spiritual and physical realm. You are meant for it. You're built for it. If you feel like you're not built for it, I don't know what to tell you. You understand? Because you are built for it. But you got to become tough mentally. You got to become tough spiritually. You got to become tough financially. You got to become tough emotionally. You have to become tough in every aspect of your life to be able to combat all of the evil things that are working against your life. That's the reality. That won't happen if you're freaking weak. That won't happen if you're not willing to put in the work. That won't happen if you're not trying to self-improve. We on this channel, that's what we do. You understand? That's what we do, woke family. You know? Let's continue.
Things and turn to drugs. They turn to all kinds of things because they can't cope. They need something to soothe it or help them get
That's
through
the
day to
dopamine.
day. And I understand
He's talking about the dopamine, guys.
that because sometimes it's so traumatic and everybody deals with things differently. But there are others who have gone through things that were really bad, really tragic, and they are using the pain and all of that to never have to go through it again. When I was a kid, my father used to beat the shit out of my mother and me, and I would always tell her, when I grow up, I'm going to take care of you. So everything for me was about making money to take care of her. Like whenever it was about money, it was about taking care of her. I had made so much money, man. I knew that she and I could live the rest of our lives and never spend it, and it still wasn't enough because I was still that kid running from the fear of what that was. That drove me. Now, people who have adversity and they're not able to come through it or move through it, I often ask, well, what do you do with it? Like there are a lot, like my generation, and a lot of us grew up with faith in God and believing in prayer. For me, I don't know another way, man, and I feel sorry for people who. I'm not saying that everybody has to believe in God. Everybody believes in something different, but I feel sorry for people who don't have anywhere else to go but to something. The distraction of social media, the distraction of television, the distraction of this, the distraction of a relationship, rather than being able to sit in the pain of something and hold it and harness it to use it. So my hope for people is that in their struggles, they realize and understand that every bit of it is about something like you in the gym and working out. Every time you lift a weight, what you're trying to do is gain a muscle. Well, that's not light work. That's hard work.
Yeah.
You got to take dedication, and that takes dedication and focus. And it's the same way in life. These things that come to challenge you are not trying to destroy you. They're building muscle inside in your brain and your mind to make you stronger and figure out how, when they show up again, which way to move. That's what I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting because
And the way and Tyler Perry just said it right. The only thing I disagree with what he said is that he tried to make it seem as if people shouldn't believe in God, or if you don't believe in God, you don't have anything else to turn to. It's like, no, I'm gonna be honest with you. Whether you're a Christian, Jew, or Muslim, you should believe in God, because all three believe in God, right? There is a higher power, and that his name is God. You should believe in God. You should read your Bible, read the Torah, read the Quran, understand the Word of God, and really understand how all of those things that are mentioned in the Bible, Quran, and Torah, either one of the three or all three of them, tie back to everything that's happening in this physical world right now. Because I won't be surprised if we find out that we're in the end times. There are a lot of demonic things that are going on in this world right now that people don't even speak on. People are scared to speak on, you know? So you have to be faithful. You have to trust in God, and you got to put in the work. Even God says himself, or it says in the Bible itself, prayer without works is dead. So no matter how much you pray, if you're not putting in the work, your life will never change. You will eventually end up giving up. That's not to say that prayer isn't effective, but God won't help those who don't help themselves. Even my people, our able people said, let me say that again. That means that whoever's being helped also helps themselves. If you don't help yourself to get out of your situation, you will always remain in that situation. You know? Well, let's continue.
The whole muscle thing, like that was a physical representation of me and my internal struggle. Like, cause it wasn't like I was like, oh, this was the thing like that. I got to a point where I was like, oh, I really like this and I love this and I want to get bigger. I want to get stronger. But originally, it started because of the lack of, father figure in my life at a young age. Obviously, I lost my father when I was 6, and then when I found the gym, I found this like camaraderie in the gym and what the gym meant to me, and the learning moments from the older men that were in the gym teaching me how to lift, how to do the bench press. And then it became a thing where I was like, because I felt lost in not having that. And when I started to find that in different communities, like for example, when I played sports, I found that with coaches. When I had friends, and I found that in like parents of my friends. And I always found myself gravitating towards this stuff because I was trying to almost fill a void that, I wasn't able to fill otherwise. And the reason why I'm relating it to this is that I'm trying to define the difference between the people who go, something terrible happened to me, and now my life's bad, and something terrible happened to me, and then starting to see, right? Because you said beyond the adversity, it's like, where do you put that energy? Like, where do I put it, right? So some people they never find the thing that is like genuinely for them, or they don't allow themselves to go towards it because maybe the doubt or the other people who are existing are saying that's a bad idea.
I think it's deeper than that on many levels. I think it all starts at childhood. I think the weight for you and the being stronger started at childhood with your father.
Yeah.
I think that was a pivotal moment of being strong enough. I really do. I think if you really lay into that, and you've shared that publicly, so so in that moment, if you lay into that and what that child, if you could separate yourself from seeing the child that you were and what the child saw and wanting to be stronger to fix that, you carry that subconsciously your whole life. And also I think about childhood is where everything starts, and every situation, everything you go through in life, every moment, everything your parent does, everything your brothers, siblings say, what the bully says, all of those things are putting things in your suitcase, right?
Yeah.
So you pack a bag, like you're going on vacation, you pack a bag, you take that bag on vacation, so you can have everything that you want, right? So with that bag, you got everything in it. It's all in it, everything you need. Sunscreen, it's all there. Whatever comes up, it's there, right? That's life. And when you have a kid, you're packing that kid's bag. And if that kid runs into adversity and trauma and trouble and looks in that bag and there's nothing to help with that, what do? So
I agree with that. That's why. That's why, in my opinion, woke family, I believe that everybody should be bullied at a point in time. You have. You have. Listen to me carefully. You have to go through that adversity in order to be able to come out on the other side of victory. Let me say that again. You have to go through that adversity to be able to come out on the side of victory. If you don't go through that adversity, you will never realize the point of why you were meant to survive, of why you were meant to reproduce, of why you were meant to become the highest value version of yourself. You have to go through adversity. I literally told you guys a story. I don't know if it was yesterday or a couple of days ago, of when I was in middle school and I used to have serious anger issues. And one of the bullies at the time slapped me in my face and I went home crying. I trained. I worked out. I took it serious. Next time he tried that again, you know what I did? I slapped him back in his face. And we started fighting, and I won. What does that show you? You have to go through adversity. You can't be afraid to step up to the bully. You can't be afraid to go through your trauma because trauma as a man builds you. It destroys women generally, but as a man, it builds you. You have to go through that trauma in order to be able to level up. It's not going to be an easy thing, but it's for sure doable.
A lot of us got bags from our parents and bullies and friends, and we look at it and there's nothing to help us cope. So at some point you have to take a moment and go, you know what? They didn't prepare me for this. They didn't give me anything to deal with it. It's okay. It's okay. They weren't supposed to, because if they were, then I would have it. Generally, they were supposed to as parents, but a lot of times that doesn't happen.
Yeah.
So what do? You start, like for me, I started to work on my own stuff because I did not want to be in the situation of having things show up and I wasn't equipped to handle the pain of it all.
Guys, hold on 1 second. All right, guys, my bad. Let's get back to this.
And I've been through some crazy shit.
Yeah.
But nothing that I've been through in my adult life has been worse than what I suffered at the first 28 years of my life. So those first 28 years of my life prepare me for everything that's happening now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just think that's important to know because a lot of people, especially the younger crowd listening to this, like as they go through, because I've gotten a lot of questions at the end of podcasts. People ask me, I always do audience questions. People always talk about like I'm 18 or I'm 20 something and I'm going through this or I went through this when I was young and I don't have a direction. I don't know what to do. People are so like as if, and I think it's fair because that's all they know at that point that like, this happened to me, my life is over, what do I do? But that's just the beginning, like you're saying. I just want people to realize who are going through things that all these things, and I've said this many times in podcasts, they all make you who you're supposed to be. Like they're all a new opportunity to get better from. And I just wish more people were able to take from those like negatives to turn into positives. But I just feel like nowadays, and we'll kind of get into this topic a little bit. People are so externally focused on what's going on in life because of social media and because of the internet that we lose so much sight of like what's going on inside here in our hearts that allows us to actually grow from the moments in our life that we need the most growth from and like genuinely looking inside. And I feel like we're not taught to look inside anymore. We're taught to look outside. We're taught to look at the external. We're taught to look almost at people sometimes with jealousy or envy and like this desire. You want this because, on social media, let's say you're 25 and you see some kid who's 18 has a success because of, something went viral. And there's this whole comparison game, this obviously thief of joy. We talk about this as like, how does a person now move through the world in your opinion, because it's changed so much and does not get caught up with what someone else has? Because it was different for me, to be honest. Like when I look at my early 20s, like social media wasn't what it was today. I grew in through it and I grew up through it. Like how do you think social media is changing?
I feel sorry for your generation, younger, because as great as social media was supposed to be, what a lot of us don't realize is we're victims of algorithms.
Yeah, it's a massive double-edged sword.
Yes, which means that if you type in bunnies, 10,000 bunnies are going to show up.
And it just kind of keeps going.
And what that is designed to do is to hold your attention, to gather your information, to learn as much about you as they can so that they can make billions and billions and billions of dollars at the risk and the expense of your mental health. I didn't grow up with this many people having mental health crises, and there are a lot of mental health crises. There are people, I have people who work for me of all ages, but there's some of them coming, they're so depressed and sad. And my whole thing is, can you turn this off? And a lot of them can't. Like, can you just not look at this for a week or a day or two?
Yeah.
Like for me, if I went on social media and spent a day looking at things, if I started focusing on the news every day and what's happening spiritually, for me, I get drained, I get exhausted, and I find myself sad because there's so much negativity, so much things that are coming your way to make you think what they want you to think.
Yeah.
And having a 7-year-old man, I worry about him. Like he doesn't watch television. He has an iPad to watch shows, maybe 20, 30 minutes of his cartoons and stuff. But I want him to be clear about who he is as a person and as a man first, a boy into young man, before he gets inundated with these algorithms telling them who they are. So I worry, and as I watch all this mental health, and I worry about a lot of people much younger than me taking in all this stuff because it's a double-edged sword. As great as it can be for many things, it is definitely something that can be extremely toxic. So if you can, and here's a challenge to you, if you can't turn it off for a day, then you're addicted to it. If you can't put it down, if you can't walk away from it, if you have to have your phone every 5 minutes at dinner and every meal, if you have to be if you cannot put it down, then it's got you.
Yeah.
I'm not saying throw it away, get rid of it. I'm just saying just put it down for a while and check in with yourself. Like for me, I have to be in silence to hear if I'm okay. Like if I go through something, I have to be in silence so I can pray, be clear. Like, am I okay? How do I feel about this? What do I really think? So I'm asking myself these questions rather than some algorithm feeding me how to feel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's what I think the problem comes in because like I don't think enough people are taught like this idea. Like because it's just normal. It's just like what.
For for those of the woke ones that don't know what they're talking about introspection. What introspection is that you basically go through a point where you're basically um, figuring out what's wrong with you or what mistakes you're making in your life, right? And how you can basically go from within to self improve. But yeah, guys, we're gonna see if we can skip to the Kanye part. That was the main reason why we came on here. So hopefully there's some timestamps. See if we can find it quickly. No timestamps. All right, you know what? Let's just skip around.
Going from paying a $10,000 light bill a month at one studio to having
I want to wrap this up because I know you don't have a ton of time, but I want to talk about one more thing, and it was also something very significant and related to this point that you just said about me and my father. And I remember at one point you told me, because I would have these conversations with you about this and about my situation.
I think I was probably one of the first people you told about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fuck, I don't want to cry.
But why would you even hold it? However it feels, you should let it out. Don't do that, man. Let it out how it comes.
Fuck.
Just speak through it.
I think one of the most important things that you ever taught me, you told me one time, you said, fuck. The reason why I'm so emotional is because this changed my life.
Yeah.
You told me to write down almost like a letter to my 6-year-old self.
Yeah.
In relationship to my father taking his life, hanging himself, and how it affected me as from my perspective as an older man to a 6-year-old, and like kind of telling my younger self, hey, this is what happened. This is why. You know, like, this is why you'll be okay. This is why. This is like what I know now. Yeah. And that's the thing that I think is so significant, man. Like and we kind of keep talking about it, but people get so caught up at where they're at and in the moment of like the negative and the darkness and the evil, and they don't see the light.
Yeah.
They don't believe that there's anything. And I remember when you told me to do this, how much weight it took off me, because I was able to look kind of back at a situation that my perspective then was so different than my perspective now. And I was able to look back from an older state and understand that it wasn't as simple as what I thought it was then, which was my father didn't love me.
Yeah.
And I'm not good enough.
Yeah.
And I was so caught up in trying to be like strong and for my family, for my mom, for myself, that like I built up so many walls in who I was. And it's crazy looking back now how much it affected even my personal relationships, my intimate relationships, my relationships with my family, friends, everything. Because I was so like, I tried to be so strong. And I looking back now, it's like I didn't have to be, because like it didn't make sense for me to determine my life based on, you know, a decision, an outward, like I keep talking about this, an external decision that my father made based on everything that happened in his life and who he was at that moment, at that point. Like, as a 6-year-old, I could never understand that because I was 6. I'm just understanding life. Everything prior to that moment is like, you know, oh, I hurt my knee, the scab's up, I'm healed. Or I spilt this, oh, it's cleaned up, it's fixed. And then being confronted with the idea of death and knowing that like, oh, like that, what does that mean? What is death? What's the point of this? My father's never coming back. What does that even mean? Like, that doesn't make sense. I'll see him tomorrow, waking up and he's not there, waking up and he's not there.
Yeah.
And you taught me this, and it was one of the things that I wanted to say before this ended, because I want people to understand that this changed my life. This writing this and giving myself that perspective, like back to my 6-year-old self with the newly found information that I have, going to that point that I went to, and I was in my mid-20s. And I just want people to understand that first and foremost, like we keep talking about, is that everything, we said this earlier, everything that we go through, every hardship, every downfall is going to be a new opportunity to learn and to grow and to become better and to go closer to where you really want to go. You just have to allow it.
Yeah.
And that's something that you taught me, and I'll be forever grateful. And I
act out in our relationships, in our friendships, in our business. We're carrying the stuff that was given to us. You know, I think because what I was saying to her or the questions I was asked, she realized I knew what I was talking about.
Yeah.
And I was talking about pride.
Obviously in this relationship of your history and knowing where you've come from is ingrained in your ability and like your vision in your future of like what you can create, because you wrote this story, the Jasmine Blue, you wrote this story 27 years ago, but you said today, now it's relevant. Like how are you, like obviously you know where you came from, you know what you've gone through, and obviously the culture in general, but how do you go, okay, now today is the time to or have you?
I'm gonna try 35 minutes. If I can't find it in 2 other skips, then we'll just skip.
Once I learned that, I was like, okay, so when this next opportunity, Fort McPherson, 330 acres, it comes up, I go, okay.
Like I said, I think we're getting further and further away from like true human nature. Like, because it's, where does this go when, we're going farther, we get this Neuralink thing that Elon Musk is talking about, where it's like, now you're gonna have this phone, this device basically in your brain where you could think of something, or I could send you a message based on a thought, like to like this crazy degree of we're getting so far away from being human that, do you ever think it's gonna like mess things up? I mean, it feels like.
I think it already has.
Yeah.
I think it already has. I look at like people being bullied online, cyberbullying, and people being bullied, and people saying this person made me feel uncomfortable with this person. All of that to have a opportunity to be empowered and have a voice is phenomenal. It's phenomenal.
Absolutely.
However, if you feel that everything is bullying you, everything, like you go to the store and the lady said, you can't have that, you have to leave. If you feel like somebody says, move, you're in the way in the line at the grocery store, and you say that's bullying, it's even if it was said that kind, right?
Yeah.
I just worry that
it's made people overly sensitive.
I just worry about the sensitivity that it's causing. It's like, hold on a second, because listen, I can tell you, there's no way in hell they could have grew up the way I did, because
they don't, because they don't know what it takes to be tough mentally at all.
Everything was bullying. Everything was getting your ass beat. Everything was all those things. So I'm glad there's an outlet and a place and a voice, an opportunity for people to voice their concerns. But I also want people to identify what it really is.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It's like it's taking away from our human ability to identify like real problems in our life and go like, everything's a fucking problem.
And feel real pain. Feel
Right.
real pain in the sense of, like I had people working for me, man. I'm just like, I've got to go. I've got to go. What's you okay? Yes, we've worked 5 hours. I need to go home. You worked, yeah. What? You worked 5 hours? Yes, this is too much. I've worked 5 hours. I don't want to work 5.5 hours. That's too much. I'm like, okay, well, you going home then. So I was like, going home.
Wow.
But me growing up, 16, 18, 20 hours a day, just working all day long, still.
Yeah, and what I've understood on your come up, I mean, we were talking about this earlier, not on the pod, we were talking about this prior, but is it true that you did 365 shows, 360, when you're doing the plays?
The live plays, plus.
In a year?
Sometimes more than that. So there was 8 shows on the weekend, so yeah, more than that. Every day, grinding it out, showing up city to city. There was no, oh, I'm tired. No, man, I got 30,000 people coming this week to see these live plays. They want to see Medea. Hello. I don't know why, but but I got out there and I bust my ass because I knew I was building something, right?
Yeah.
And I knew what it was like to work for somebody else. And when I worked for those other people, I honored them. I made sure I did a good job, because there's a scripture in the Bible that says, how you honor another man's, God will bless you with your own. Yeah. So when you're working for somebody else and you've got a dream of your own, make sure you're taking care of that job as you're moving towards yours. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, no, 300. That's nothing for me to work that hard and grind it out. But that's why I'm here at this place. Like even now, having thousands of employees at the studio coming to work every day, looking at young people your age and younger coming in, having an opportunity to be in a business that they never thought they could be in.
Yeah.
Directing and writing and acting and making millions of dollars, and their whole lives change. Coming to see, man, I just bought my mom a house. Man, I just did this. I paid off my student loan. All of that stuff, man, makes me feel incredible, because at this point, there's no other reason for me to keep going, working that hard.
Yeah.
I can be on the island on a boat somewhere, right? But what's happening for them is why I'm showing up every day.
Well, I find this so interesting about you. You said about this honor idea and this like respect. Even your father, someone that you obviously had the most tumultuous relationship with, you still bought him a house. You still did the things that he did for you,
yeah,
despite everything.
Right.
why do you think it's so hard for people to, I don't know, to overcome, I guess, like negative points and still be able to look back and be like, still honor people with love, just
Because they're trained to be weak. They don't want you to be strong as men. They want you to be weak and to reflect on your trauma and to still be butthurt about it 20 years after. Nah, bro, you got to move on. Why did that trauma come in your life in the first place? To be able to make you stronger, to deal with more trauma, to be able to get past that trauma and to become a winner. You understand? But people don't want to face the tune of it. That's the reality. If we're to really talk about it, you know?
despite where they've come, like what they've been through with them. You know what I'm saying? Like I've had so many moments where, and I've talked to you about this, where I feel completely taken advantage of my business partners, and I'm dealing with all picking up pieces and all this stuff. And it's hard for me sometimes, genuinely speaking, to like, I just have a little bit harder time to process those things, but I know that I need to, and I know that it's what's going to help me get to the next level. Why do you think it's so difficult sometimes to release that, to let go, to give the honor, to give the love regardless, and continue to move?
It was harder when I was younger, but as I got older, I realized something. I started looking back on what would have happened if that didn't happen. If you can find the patterns in your life from the chaos, if you can find what if, I talked about this thing with IRS, being audited, right?
And them having to give you $9 million back.
But you just took my story. You didn't let me tell the audience. You just took the whole hook of the story. I'm a storyteller here. Let me get to it.
Gotcha.
But no. What I was saying about it is just having. I was so annoyed during that audit. I was so annoyed. I was just like, these people, why they harass me? And I was just angry and frustrated. I just said, I hear that voice say, just surrender. And in that surrendering, I just go, okay, because I'm writing crazy checks, $100,000 check, $100,000 check, another 100 for accountants because of this audit. It's going on for 3 years. I'm going, what the hell's going on?
Yeah.
But when I surrendered, I said, okay, something's got to be here. I got to learn something. I'll just walk through it. Surrender to it. Find out in this audit, I don't owe them any money. They owe me $9 million, right? So what it taught me was, okay, everything that seems horrible may not be so when you get to the other side of it, and there's a lesson in it. And also, I got rid of the people who made me overpay $9 million and didn't know it. So I brought in another team who was able to really point out things to me. So sometimes your lessons don't come as simple little, hey, here you go, pat on the back, you're going to be okay. Sometimes they're bigger, harder lessons. And when they are, if you can find, hear me when I say this, if you can find the reason and why you went through it, it's easier. It's not easy, it's easier to forgive those people and move on and let go. But I don't believe anything that has happened in my life has happened because
of no reason.
It was just happening. Because everything, good and bad, that has happened in my life happened for a purpose. And every time I look back on it, it was a reason. Case in point, I had an opportunity to do a TV show with CBS. They wanted to do the Tyler Perry Show or 2.5 Men.
Yeah.
And I got into the meetings, and it was just, I hated every minute of it. I didn't like the notes. I just didn't want to do it. And I was like, God, if I just get out of this, I'll never look back. My agent calls me up. He said, Tyler, we hate to tell you this, but Chuck Lorre has decided to go with 2.5 Men. I know you're really upset. I was like, yeah, I'm really upset. I was happy as hell, man. I was thankful. But had that not happened and I signed that deal, I would not have went to Atlanta, started House of Pain, which probably has about 400 or 500 episodes right now.
Yeah.
All of my shows have hundreds of episodes because the audience is so endearing. And I wouldn't own everything that I own had I went that way. So everything you go through, if you can clearly find a reason, you may, and somebody's going right now, Tyler, oh, fuck that bullshit. What you say? What you saying? No, this ain't no. This is horrible what I'm going through. But I promise you, 99% of the time, if you look back on it, you go, if that wouldn't have happened, I wouldn't have been in this great place.
Yeah, and I wouldn't have learned this, and I would have learned that.
Right. And if you listen, I'll say this to you, if you keep finding yourself in the same situations with different people, you're not learning the lesson.
Yeah.
And then it's going to get harder and harder and uglier and uglier and uglier. And I learned that early on and go, you know what, God, I ain't got to go through this 2 or 3 times. This the lesson here? I got it. I'm never doing this again. And I promise you, there's not been one time in my life where I went through something and that I learned the lesson and did the right thing that I had to go through that lesson again. It's like school. Once you learn that lesson, I promise you, you never go through it again. But you've got to write it down, make sure it's clear that you understand what you were supposed to learn.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Damn. And it's funny because this also reminds me, we had a conversation about you opening all the studios.
Yeah.
in Atlanta, and I wanted to talk to you a little bit about not just the lessons, but the vision. People told you when you were opening these studios, I think it was like, I don't know, your financial team or your people that are in your
Not to
circle,
do it, yeah.
were telling you not to do this.
Yeah.
And obviously now, from what I understand, I think, didn't the Black Panther film stuff there, Walking Dead film stuff there, like the people have used, like mainstream Hollywood has come to use a lot of your stuff in Atlanta because of, I don't know if it's a costing thing or a convenience thing or I don't know the exact reasons. I mean, you can give more detail.
Tax credits in Georgia. Georgia has healthy tax credits, so anytime you film there, you get 30% back. So everybody wants to film in Georgia, but there was no facilities that were state-of-the-art where they could film.
Yeah.
Well, I have a state-of-the-art facility in Atlanta, 5 minutes from downtown, 5 minutes from the airport, and it's phenomenal.
So yes, exactly. And so now I want to talk about the vision of all this, and that included, like, you did things, and how did you know, like, for certain, and I don't know, I guess you didn't know, maybe you didn't know for certain, but like when people would doubt you or you would doubt yourself, how would you make these massive decisions? That's obviously one that's, more in the future. You've obviously made a lot of decisions leading up to that. But for example, I called you, I remember when I was talking about opening my gym first, I was so worried about the success of it or what it could have been because I existed solely on the internet prior to opening that gym, Zoo Culture. Yeah. And I called you and I remember when I'm talking to you for like an hour and I'm stressing, I'm like worried, like I'm spending all this money, like $500,000, $600,000, and if it's gone and I'm gonna lose it, and this is all, like pretty much all the money I've not made to this point, but I'm investing so much of myself into this thing, and if it flops, also too, on the internet, people are gonna be like, yo, you fucking suck. And I remember so stressful and so worried, and I remember you said something significant to me. You were like, if you made it this far, doing everything you've been doing, then like, why would this also fail? And I wanted to understand from you, and maybe you can tell your audience like your vision. How do you know? How do you like? Does it come from your heart where you go, this is it? Like, when you feel it? Like, how are you determining these things?
Hold that part of the question, but let me answer this part of it. It goes back to the lessons I've learned. Like my first building I bought, I said, okay, this is going to be my studio. The building was like $1.5 million. I was just like, Jesus, a lot of money, but I'm going to buy it. I bought it. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna shoot all my movies out of here. The crew showed up to do Diary of a Mad Black Woman. They walk in the door. They're Tyler, what is this? I mean, we can't shoot a movie. We got to rent a building. This place is too small. I'm like, what do you mean it's too small? Yeah. There are going to be hundreds of people here. We can't shoot here. I was like, oh, okay. So then the next building, I was like, I got that feeling like, okay, I'm going to buy this building. I'm going to pay for it. I made a little more money. It was like $3 million. I'm going to pay for it. I want cash. I was, because I had this thing of building for right now rather than learning to build for where you're going rather than where you are. Because your vision is going to be where you're going. So I get in this building. It was a nightmare, man. I hired this contractor. I end up on the news because this dude did not pull one permit. The city down there, everybody's down there just wondering what the hell's going on. So, and the neighbors were complaining, but I was determined to stay there. Then I had a lawyer of mine say, Tyler, go take a look at this place. I went, drove, it was on a bad side of town, went and drove. It's like, I'm not buying this place. It was a former Delta reservation center or something. And I go there, and one night I'm sitting there in front of the gates, and because I just wanted everything paid for. Yeah. I'm sitting in front of the gates, I say a prayer. If I'm supposed to do this, God, make it clear. I get out, and there are Bible scriptures taped to the gates. One of them is my favorite Bible scripture. So I said, okay, I'm supposed to do this. See, I look for confirmation to do it. I did it, and I thought, okay, great, this is it. I'm not going to ever leave this place. Fantastic. We're going to do all of my shows here. Within a year and a half, people were on top of each other. There were desks in the hallways. We didn't have enough space. I was just like, what is going on? And I didn't want to leave it because, I think it was probably, I was spending maybe $7 million a year to maintain it, which was great, right? So I thought, okay, this is good. I'll just stay here. And by this time, every time I did not do what I felt led to do, things started to fall apart. So I learned that if I'm feeling led to move and an opportunity comes and I don't make that move, I can expect things to get rough until I make the move. Yeah. So once I learned that, I was like, okay. So when the next opportunity, Fort McPherson, 330 acres, it comes up, I go, okay, I'm going to take it. And because I had a little 1 acre studio, like 7,000 square feet, then like a 200,000 square feet, then a 400,000 square feet, I built up to understanding what that meant. Can you imagine me going from paying a $10,000 light bill a month at one studio to having a $180,000 light bill a month at another? I couldn't wrap my brain around that.
Yeah.
But understanding that each step was progress.
But you didn't just go from A to Z, right?
No.
Right?
Many steps in between. And the Bible says don't despise small beginnings, which simply means that if you starting out really, really small, I don't care who's laughing at you, who's talking about you, don't despise it. Because that is where the nucleus of it all is, man. Yeah, so don't despise it, embrace that, because had I not had any of those steps, I promise you, I wouldn't be in the place that I'm in. Even with the jobs I had as a used car salesman, as a bill collector, yeah, you know, people are like, you did those jobs? I was, yeah, and when I'm negotiating a contract, I remember all of that stuff. You see what I mean? So all the things that you have in life, all the tools that you're getting, they're not wasted. They'll find a way in your life when you get to your purpose of your dream.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just so crazy nowadays. Like we're so caught up in what other people have that I think it's hard for us to listen and to find that voice inside of what's really good for us, because there's so much external. I just think it's such a different place nowadays.
It is, and I wouldn't be envious of anybody growing up in this time. I wouldn't have wanted to grow up in this time because we had the opportunity to make mistakes without it being on the internet forever.
Yeah.
You know, we had the opportunity to say the wrong things, to go out, get drunk, get caught up, and do all. But now, anything of this generation, and I worry about this for my son, anything you do is a record for life. And everything you put on the internet is a record for life. When I'm hiring people, I check their pages.
Damn.
I do.
Wow.
I'll never forget Whitney Houston, friend of mine. One guy I really wanted to hire him, go to his page. He's got "Rest in Peace Whitney" written in cocaine on his page.
Written in, like a picture?
Written in cocaine, a picture on his page. A picture of the cocaine on his page.
The drug, like written, the words are written.
Cocaine written, "Rest in Peace Whitney." Yeah, lined up in the white. And he didn't get the job because I went to his page. Because what people don't understand is that everything you are putting out is telling people everything about you.
You're right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So some people say that's not fair. I was like, well, if you don't, you never know who's who. So don't post things you don't want people to really.
Yeah.
I get that, but this is my thing. For those people who decide to post those things, you have to understand that you're diminishing your opportunity towards getting a high income skilled job. So your best opportunity is to go for entrepreneurship. You know, now am I saying entrepreneurship is easier than a job? No, it's way much harder. But at the end of the day, you know you're building yourself a future.
Yeah. You know,
well, this brings me to another question then, because this is such a relevant thing. I got to ask you about it. What do you think about Kanye West right now and all the things that he's saying?
Guys, we found it. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go.
And in relationship to all this wild kind of talk about Hollywood and it obviously being on the internet, and you can never really take those things back, you know?
Two things.
He's an entrepreneur though. He's not an employee. He's not going for me.
Things, and he's paying a big price for it. I don't care how much money he has.
He's losing a lot.
He's paying a huge price for it. And what you have to understand is this, man. My mother worked at the Jewish Community Center. So when I was growing up, she would be home on certain holidays. So she taught us about Rosh Hashanah and different things, the different Jewish holidays. I think I said that right. And she came home crying one day because, you know, they wanted to. I was like, why are you crying? She's like, they wanted to blow the place up. She took care of babies, Jewish kids in the Jewish Community Center. They were nursery kids. She couldn't believe that somebody could have that kind of hate, right? So anytime I hear somebody who makes anti-Semitic statements or blanketly pulls people into one thing, I am beyond concerned on one side of it and mortified on the other. So, and then I look at, you know, what happened on the 405 with this huge sign, Kanye's right, and they're doing the Hitler salute. And when you have a voice and you have millions of people who follow you, you have to be really, really careful what you say.
Yeah.
You know, even if he feels that way, he has the right to feel however he does.
Of course.
But when you start to share it and you have a following, that's really, really difficult. But just like I don't understand how anybody, especially somebody of color whose ancestors came through horrible abuse, a lot of things that are on the same lines of what Jewish people went through.
Right.
I can't understand how somebody who comes from that stock, that lineage, could have that kind of make those kind of statements about another people. But on the other side of it, I cannot understand someone who has
You know why
a
he made
mental
those
health
statements,
issue.
though? Tyler, do you know why he made those statements? He made those statements because of all the Jewish people in the past that had screwed him over. And he said that before. He's literally mentioned that before. All those Jewish people in the past that were the businessmen that have screwed him over in the past, that was what he was referring to. So it's not about trying to castigate him. Instead, let's try to develop an understanding for why they're saying what they're saying. But no, they're not going to do that because if you do say those things, you're anti Semitic.
Like, I've never had one. I've got family members who've had one. No matter what I do or what I try to do, I can never put myself in those shoes.
Yeah.
So I don't know, but my hope is whatever's going on with him, that it gets better. But I'm very, very concerned about him.
Yeah, yeah. The thing the thing, like I said, that is most concerning, I think, is not just specifically we'll talk about enough talk about Kanye, but the blanket statements of things on the internet. Did you hear about the Andrew Tate stuff?
I don't know what that is.
Yeah, it's fine, no worries. But the blanket statements of, like, say, okay, this, if you go, Jewish people or women, or you make these statements and then they follow with what comes next, it becomes dangerous because you have people who maybe because of age or because of life experience, like, they could take a concept and completely run with it without, like, being able to identify all the details and niceties regarding to it, and they just kind of like those people who are, well, I don't know what the fuck they were doing, taking pictures, like doing the Nazi stuff, like on the 405. It's like they're maybe not critically thought enough to go, okay, maybe this isn't the best thing to do, or maybe there's a different sort of motive or intention there. But I think it gets dangerous on the internet, which is why, like, we've been seeing a lot of, I maybe not be as aware of this, but recently on social media, like, people get banned or getting canceled, getting taken. That's why I was referencing the Andrew Tate thing, being canceled or taken off platforms entirely because of the things that they're saying, being like these kind of like very like decisive, controversial, and sometimes blanket statements of like groups of people. And people aren't overall, I think, in nowadays being taught to critically think about concepts or things that are happening. We're just
I don't know how you could be taught to critically think when you are being inundated and told what to think by algorithms.
Facts. That is a fact, though. They don't. This is the thing. I'm gonna be honest with you. They don't want you to be able to critically think as a human being. They want you to be dumb. They want you to or they want you to, how do I say this? They want you to be dumb. They don't want you to question stuff. And they don't want you to be able to be a free thinker. That's the reality of the situation, and it's sad, but it is what it is. That's why you have to try to escape the matrix. You have to, that's why it's important for you to take the red pill. Because if you take the red pill, you will be able to teach yourself the stuff that's important for you to be able to escape the matrix and to be able to see reality for the way it is. They don't want you to be woke. That's the reality.
Listen, I've got a 7-year-old son who goes to school with every race imaginable.
Yeah.
And to this day, he has not come home and said, the black kid said this, or the Jewish kid said this, or the Indian kid said this. He'll come and, the girl with the red hair, or the guy who's wearing the blue shoes. And that purity, that innocence, I want him to hold on to as long as I can, because this world can be really, really cold and really, really ugly. And I think that, especially being a black.
But this is the thing, though, Tyler. I'm gonna be honest with you. You're saying that you wanted to hold on to that purity for as long as he can hold on to it. But the thing is that in this world, especially in 2022, especially in this society, mainly, what you have to understand is that majority of people like yourself or any other parents are not raising their kids anymore. What is raising your kids? Social media. What also is raising your kids? The school system. So unless you're taking the time out of your day to raise your child, or you have a wife that's raising your child, they're being indoctrinated every single day, and they're becoming worse every single day. Not saying your child specifically. I would never speak on another person's child, but I'm just saying in general, children, they're getting worse every single day. So it's something that definitely needs to be sought into or sought after.
black person who grew up in the South, whose parents grew up in a Jim Crow South. I know racism firsthand. I know what it feels like. I know how awful it is to be blanketed. I still, to this day, know what it's like to walk up to a store and they won't open the door because all they see is a black man before they
No
even
way
know
to
what.
this day.
My hand to God.
No way.
My hand to God.
What?
My hand to God. I was in a store recently in Beverly Hills, and I was building a house, and there was a bathtub in the window. It's on La Cienega, beautiful bathtub. It looked antique. And I go and I'm looking in the window, and I go up to the door, and I knock, and the woman comes. She looks up and she just stops, and she goes,
What are you doing?
I said, "Can I help you?" I was like, "I want to see the bathtub." Okay.
Yeah, she's nervous because you're a black man. It happens in neighborhoods where they don't expect a huge number of black people to be there, you know, and it's sad, but it is what it is.
And she's really doing this. And she goes, "Okay." So she reluctantly, slowly opens the door, staring at me the whole time. And then she goes, "John, I'm up front, John. I'm up front. We got a customer up here, John." I kid you not. So I go over, I look at
This
the
is at a
bathtub.
house you're building.
Yeah, the house I was building. I go over, look at the bathtub, beautiful bathtub, get all the information. And, I think because what I was saying to her or the questions I was asked, she realized I knew what I was talking about.
Yeah.
And I was talking about price, and she gave me the price or whatever, and said, "Okay, how long will it take to get?" "Well, I don't know. I'll have to ask John when he gets back." I said, "Okay, well, he's in the back, right?" "Oh, no, he's not here. I was just saying that because I'm here by myself, and we've been having people just walk past and show up, and we've been really concerned."
that's
So,
racist. That's
yeah.
Wow.
Got on the elevator at the Peninsula Hotel. Got going up, elevator stops, me and the security guard, big black guy, little white woman, door opens, she looks up. "No, y'all go ahead." Door closes, we going up the stairs. So it happens all the time.
Yeah. So how do you think people can get out of that? Get out of that mentality?
It's not going to happen no matter what you say. It's a mentality that they were ingrained into since they were little children. You can't change it, bro.
Is it a learned thing? Is it just
It's totally a
Definitely
learned thing
learned.
because as I was just talking about my son, but also it's just, listen, some of it is valid, right? Because when I see certain groups of people, I think, okay, if I'm in Georgia. If I see a certain group of people that look a certain way, I'm thinking, I'm not necessarily going to be on this side of the street.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yo, you're
with their
funny.
trucks and their
Yo.
rebel flags, I kind of have an opinion. So I understand. And some people may say that's racist because if you look at some of the guys that work for me around the house, man, they are those guys and some of the best guys in the world. They're complete. They'll tell you they're country rednecks, right?
Yeah.
And we're out there sitting and listening to Tim McGraw having a great time. So I understand how people can judge, but I wish we would all get to a place where we could just say, hey, just at least give the person the benefit of the doubt. I still walk down the street and people will cross the street, especially with the mask on, man. It's,
Yeah. But that's why I think, obviously it doesn't just come down to critically thinking. It comes down to how you're taught and how you're raised and like what you're able. But that's why I keep getting back to this idea of thinking, right? Because people make a lot of these assumptions based off of just what they're learned, what they're taught, what someone else says, and not always like their real experience, right? Because for someone to make that assumption, you go into the elevator and she's like, "Oh, I'm going to avoid this." Like, or maybe she did have an actual personal experience where something like that happened and she realized, okay, maybe I need to avoid this. But at the same time, I just wonder if there's a way for people to ever get past this, because it seems like it's almost become like this division of race, specifically in America, has become more and more of a problem. Like when it seems it should have become less and less of a problem.
Listen, as far as we've come, and you've got to give credit to how far we've come, because there was a time I couldn't sit here with you right now having this conversation.
Yeah,
right?
that's fair.
And even though you brought me in through the back door.
Well, that's because there's other people when they're not the COVID test. I got your back.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
I'm just joking. But just the
No, you're not. You wouldn't have brought it up if you didn't feel some type of way about it. Be honest. Be honest, Tyler.
understanding of how far we've come is important to acknowledge it, but how far we have to go is also as important to acknowledge it. My new movie, Jazzman's Blues, I was getting notes from different black people saying, Why do we have to keep revisiting this time? Why do we have to talk about this when it was so dark in our history? But
Damn, you took my question. Fucker.
did I really?
Yeah, it's all
If
good.
I
Look,
don't-
he
if
goes
I
my
don't-
next
if-
question.
well, how much time we got?
No, we just keep going.
No. I got a hard out. What time is it now? How long we been here?
An hour, 51 minutes.
We've been here 51 minutes already? Okay,
Yeah.
great. What time is it?
It is 12:16.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
I'll go to jazz band, but just having them say, why do we have to keep going back to these dark times? But it's so important that we remember it.
Yeah.
Because if we
If you don't remember the dark times, you can never level up and improve. I feel you, guys. We're gonna watch a couple more minutes, and then we're gonna end stream a little bit early tonight, man. But I appreciate y'all for tuning in. You feel me? But yeah, we're gonna end stream in a few minutes.
forget it, then if you forget your history, you're destined to repeat it. That's often been said.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how important do you think, obviously in this relationship of your history and knowing where you've come from is ingrained in your ability and like your vision in your future of like what you can create? Because you wrote this story, the Jasmine Blues, you wrote this story 27 years ago, but you said today, now it's relevant. Like how are you, like obviously you know where you came from, you know what you've gone through, and obviously the culture in general, but how do you go, okay, now today is the time to do this? Like, how do you write something that long ago and know that now it's applicable, now it's relevant?
Well, looking at what's happening in our country, man, there's so many people banning books, but they don't want certain books read. They don't want their kids to know about the history of slavery. You know, I got a friend right now, his kid's in school, and they went to parent-teacher meeting, and the teacher says, your daughter's really, really smart, but we can only give her one award. He's like, why? He's like, she deserves all of them. Why can't you give them all of them? Because we're only giving each kid one award. We don't want any of the other kids to feel bad. Things like that, right? No winners, no losers. It's like,
It's not reality. That's the problem. We're gonna end it off with this. We're gonna watch a couple more videos, guys. We're gonna stay on stream a little bit longer, but it's not realistic because in life there are winners and losers. But the thing is that those who win continuously put in the work, and those who lose are gonna listen to the people that win all the time. Feel me? But guys, yeah, we're gonna hop into the next video, man. We're gonna watch Iman Gaji. Apparently, they're saying that he got canceled, so we're gonna see what happens.
There is a top secret undeclared war that is going on behind the scenes right now. You see, the last few weeks I found myself investigating something way deeper than I ever would have imagined. You know that feeling when you see something happen in the media, a narrative spread, it's being perpetuated, and it just doesn't sit right with you. Something feels off. You know, as if there was some sort of, I don't know, agenda behind it? Well, that's exactly how I feel about this war against masculinity and freedom of speech that's really started to ramp.
That's big facts. There is a very, very big war against masculinity. They don't want men to be masculine. They want men to be weak. They want men to be suppressed. They want men to be reliant on the government. This is exactly why you as a man, why we all as men, why we all as woke members of the Most High God have to step up. It's very important.
Ramp up in the last few months especially. Recently it's gone so bad that it feels like they are trying to silence us by pushing so much BS down our throats that we nearly asphyxiate and aren't even capable of speaking anymore. And the worst part is all of these attacks seem so specific and coordinated that, I can't help but feel that there may be a bigger story that's not being told. So I've had this fire inside of me recently to start searching for some answers. Why is there a war against people who speak up against the media's agenda and encourage people to think for themselves? Why is it that only one side of the argument gets silenced? And lastly, who is behind all of this? All of these questions led me down so many different rabbit holes. And
It's the woke left. Not all woke. You feel me? The woke left. The people that want you to completely agree with what they have to say, even though all of their agendas are promoting demonic activity. All their agendas are promoting demonic activity. They want you to believe in what they're saying. They want you to listen to what they're saying. And then when you start to speak the things that are the truth, they will meet you with some type of shaming language. You're a bigot. You're a neo-Nazi. You're a racist. You hate women. You're a misogynist. All these types of shaming language, right? But you know what it is. Because when you're speaking the truth, right, you're going to get canceled, quote unquote. Even Jesus said he wasn't a prophet is not accepted in his hometown. There's a reason why people don't accept you when you speak the truth, because it makes them have to introspect. It makes them have to go back within themselves and figure out where they're wrong and where they're lacking and where they have to step up. And when people have to do that, they don't like that. When people have to do that, they don't like that.
The path that was the scariest was just looking back at the history of our civilization as a whole. And here's why. I found myself reading about the motives and end goals of the ancient Greek wars, the Roman civilization, all the way down to World War I and II. And I will say at first I thought I might have been exaggerating by comparing an actual war with guns and bombs and planes to a few social media cancellations and bans. But after really digging deep into the past wars the world has lived through, I have noticed that there is something truly nefarious going on. But what is it and why? What sparked every single one of those wars was the strive for control. It was not the strive for one nation to control another, or the
Power.
strive of its people to control their land, but rather the strive of a very small group of individuals to control everything that they could put their hands on, and above all perpetuate such control for generations to come. From the Roman Wars to the Cold Wars, there was always a small group of people acting behind the scenes with their hidden motives masked behind false ideals. And that, my friends, is why I call them the puppet masters. Everything that happens around you is carefully planned by the puppet masters in control and executed by their puppets that we get to see around us. Now, most people would stop there, but I asked myself, is this really the final answer? The more I thought about this answer, the more questions I had. How do the puppet masters achieve control? And how have a few people managed to control an entire civilization through the course of history? And this is where things start to get very concerning. It'll be the end of our ability to question things and do what we believe is right for us and the people around us. And if we don't step up and stop this from happening, the next God knows how many centuries are not going to look very pretty for any of us. And that's because since your income doesn't grow linearly, as most people think, it means it will go up and down. And as a result, the closer your expense level is to your income level, the less room for error you have. And it's a very clever trap set up by the puppet masters themselves. Now, the fact is, we are in a situation today where the puppet masters are on the verge of successfully implementing their mass control plan. Long story short, the world is falling apart just as the puppet masters wanted. Does that really not raise alarm bells for you? So you should have been building this moat, this layer of protection around yourself the last 2 years. But if you haven't done that yet, well, there's actually still one last light at the end of the tunnel.
Definitely a lot of valid points from what he said, and we've discussed it, right. We're living in a demonic world, so we have to be ready to be able to fight against the spirits and the demonic principalities of darkness. It is what it is. All right, guys, we're gonna move on to the next video. YouTuber's name is Chad. I just found out about her today, so we'll watch.
Hey guys, and welcome back to Cringe. My name is Chat. And I found another really cool alpha podcast. It's my alpha podcast. Every week,
Women cannot be alpha. Stop it.
I'm going to blame 100% of my problems on 50% of the population, say a bunch of words that I think make me sound smarter, but in reality have as much meaning as the final paragraph in a research paper.
Basically, the more partners a woman has, the less likely she is to have a happy marriage.
That is true. You have to understand that a woman is not biologically inclined to be with multiple men, to sleep with multiple men, because the more men she sleeps with, the harder she has the harder time she has I can't even speak English, guys. My bad. The harder time she has pair bonding with the man, and actually wanting to be with the man and actually trying to serve that.
And so I think
Shout out to Just Pearly Things. That's the woman that just said the statistic.
that's why historically we've always protected women and like tell them to like not be outside of marriage, because the bond is so strong for women during, because we release a hormone during that men don't.
In conclusion, do not engage in the dirty and squirty. A study found that 169% of women that did the dirty and squirty before wedlock were 420% more sad, mostly because during the act, women secrete hormones glue that bonds them to their partner. It is a huge mess, so ladies, stop being such sluts. I'm just kidding. I don't have a podcast yet, but this person does. And this time it's a little different because the alpha in question is a woman.
What are your thoughts on Andrew Tate?
I think he speaks a lot of truth, and a lot of women don't want to hear it. Oh, if you sleep around, that that is not attractive to guys. They don't want you to know that you age out of the dating marketplace.
So we have friendly fire. There's some espionage. It's kind of a Benedict Arnold situation. Guys, is it just me, or are the British kind of slaying right now? You're right, they're slaughtering us out there. No, I mean, they're killing it. Yes, we've lost half our men. I'm gonna switch teams. Wait, are you betraying us? Losing a war is so beta. I've been shot 5 times. I'm not gonna be on the same side as a bunch of soy boys. I've seen a bunch of stitches to her videos this past week, but had a lot of trouble finding her TikTok because apparently they keep deleting it.
They banned account number 3, but you can't get rid of me, baby. You can't get rid of me, baby. Account number 4. Account number 4.
But her YouTube is still up and she goes by Just Pearly Things, which is kind of a weird contradiction. Imagine you're strolling on the beach with the waves crashing gently. You find a clam and you pry it open to find a beautiful, sparkling pearl. And then it starts spewing misogyny at you.
You would look so much better if you...
Why are you coming after your fellow woman? I just don't understand that. She's telling you certain things that are going to be able to help you become a better woman, and you're trying to attack her. That's disgusting. I'm not going to lie. Shame on you.
Smiled more. Don't be such a beach.
The reason that I think feminism is a hate group is because oftentimes the things that they advocate for are at the cost of men.
I saw a lot of people this week labeling her as a pick-me.
And to everyone calling me a pick-me, I'd rather be a pick-me than a skip-me.
Facts. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about it. You're better off being a pick-me than being a skip-me. Real talk. Girls will try to shame other girls by calling them a hoe, calling them a slut, calling them a pick-me. But she's getting the ring. She's getting the ring. But you're out here at 40 years old still looking for love. Have five kids with 5 different baby daddies. Are you kidding me? Get up out of here, man.
So yeah, if you want to call me a pick-me, call me a pick-me. Bye.
Which, if you don't know what that means, it's basically a woman who tries to separate herself and make it clear that she's not like other girls. Because other girls suck. They wear short skirts, I wear t-shirts. And then they say mean things to me, like you can't only wear t-shirts and your genitals are showing. Like, what? If you'll look at these titles, most of them reference modern women a lot and in a negative way. Because as we all know, modern women...
Hold on, guys. All right, let's go back to this.
Women want rights and stuff, and that's bad. Modern women blame everyone but themselves. Modern women cannot be helped. These women put men in jeopardy. Just come with me right over here.
Where are you taking me?
In jeopardy.
What is jeopardy?
Correct. The only women we like are old-fashioned ones that don't show their ankles and churn butter. She wears long skirts. I wear long skirts because it's 1775. T-shirts haven't been invented yet, and neither has today's sponsor. This video is sponsored by Raycon. Raycon offers quality audio products at half the price of other premium.
Chad, this is my advice to you. I'm so serious. This is my advice to you. If you continue down this demonic dark path of feminism, you will be single forever. Cease and desist from this nonsense you're doing. You have a woman that's actually trying to tell you what it takes to become a wife. A wife to a man that you will actually respect, you actually will want. But you're confused and think that you're equal to a man. equal to a man, but you're not. Men and women, we're not equal. There's a reason why we're not equal. God called men to be the leaders, to take on more responsibility, to be able to provide for their family. Women are not meant to do that. Like, the burden of performance is not on a woman, it's on a man. So I don't know what type of propaganda or nonsense you're spewing, but if you really see yourself getting married in the future, cease and desist from this.
Brands without sacrificing sound or comfort. I have Raycon's everyday earbuds, which have over 50,000 5-star reviews, by the way, and they're super comfortable thanks to sound profile. They offer 8 hours of playtime and 32 hours of battery life. Holding the left for 3 seconds to toggle all the talking, and then there's the other guy purchase. Thank you to Raycon for sponsoring today, and let's get back to the video. In all of our other alpha podcasts, there's usually one who does all the talking, and then there's the other guy who's mostly there to just agree with everything the other one says. You know, like a true alpha.
Yeah.
Pearl is kind of different because she's the one who mediates this podcast, but she still manages to be a yes person somehow.
Whether a boy or girl, it's 100% your responsibility what happens in your life.
I think it's more on the girl because we have more power.
Right.
We have more power than men do in every instance. But it doesn't. But no.
That's terrible.
No, sorry, you're right. Actually, you're correct.
She'll say something and then look around, waiting for everyone else to agree and encourage her to go on.
It's like a handshake. and that's what I mean.
Kind of like a child who forgot their lines at a Christmas play. And on that night, there were 3 wise men. There were 3 wise men. And then Mary gave birth to baby Jesus.
Good, yes, go on.
And because Mary got pregnant out of wedlock,
You're doing great.
she has 0 societal value because men don't want females with a body count.
You're blaspheming Mary. I don't like that. For me, even being a Christian, me being a Catholic, it doesn't make you look good. Don't say such nonsense, please.
I'm so proud of you.
We do need men, though. We do.
We don't need them.
We do. Who do you call to get your car fixed? A man or a woman?
So I fix my own car.
Only men can be mechanics, everyone. Sorry.
How is it another woman just Pearly Things holding you accountable? Not holding just Pearly Things accountable. I'm saying, I'm talking to the woman that's trying to say I fix my own car. How is another woman in the name of just Pearly Things correcting you? That's why I said feminism has lied to you guys, bro. Literally has lied to you guys.
Just do a woman job, like read from iPad or be named after slimy thing a mollusk makes.
I can do. I'm most mechanics.
Your power supply. Who runs it? Who runs the infrastructure of society? Men or women?
So essentially, what she's saying is that we need the patriarchy because the patriarchy said we need the patriarchy, guys. And I mean, look at him. He seems trustworthy.
With the right.
See, people like her, you can just tell that it's sad that she has a very, very negative view on the world, bro, because it's like you will use the small percentage of men that are robbers and thieves to classify all of the good men, or to classify majority of the men who are not robbers and thieves. That just goes to show you how much your brain operates, because if it operates functionally, why would you bring up this, like, what does this perspective have to do with anything? Or what does this percentage have to do with anything? Nothing.
Who runs the infrastructure of society? Men or women?
We know who's in charge of more things and who has been historically. That's kind of the problem. Just because you're named after the byproduct of an oyster doesn't mean you have to have the same thought process as one. Pearl initially blew up because of this TikTok, which I'm going to put a big old warning and timestamp over, because if you don't want to watch this garbage, I don't blame you.
Name one girl that looks good at 300 pounds. Name
I don't
one.
know what 300 pounds.
What's wrong with what she said? What's wrong with what she said? Just like most women wouldn't want to date a man that's over 300 pounds, but if it's a woman, oh, you're a misogynist, you're a sexist, oh my God. Come on, bro.
Pounds is.
Do you think you want to keep them fat so you don't have to compete with them?
Ooh.
Lucky for you, there's a lot of girls plumping themselves up right now. I'm motivating them to get on the treadmill. Look at it.
If you love someone, you tell them the truth.
So not only is she an adult iPad kid, she's also a fat-phobic adult iPad kid.
You're a bot. I'm not even gonna lie. Chad, you're a bot. You're literally a bot program talking about fat phobic. Do you realize that the fatter you are, the less life you're gonna live because you're gonna have a lot of heart complications or a lot of complications in your body, and it's literally killing you. Talking about you're a fat phobic, you're a bot.
I'm going to be talking about Whale Attack Part 2 for talking about whales. And you're still a whale. Like, I can't.
She refers to plus size people.
Guys, hold on 1 second. I want to see if